Okay. You can start the presentation. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tatiana Reyes, a regional manager for Techtronic Industries.
I'm Jensen Reddy. I'm a territory manager for Techtronic Industries.
And today we're just going to be going over kind of some basics on networking, best practices, some things like helpful tips that we do. Just answer any questions that maybe you guys have.
All right, 1 second. Right now. So I found the job that I have right now through networking. I was able to meet someone on campus at UC Davis when I was there, and they graduated, they got a job, and I kept in contact with them. I ended up starting with Techtronic Industries about 1.5 years ago. I got promoted to the territory manager position, and I haven't looked back since. But most of the credit for me getting this job was honestly due to networking. And so I would 100% agree. 70 to 80% of finding a job is about who you know and who you're networking with. Things that networking can do for you is kind of get you a foot in the door where you want to be. And then in addition to that, it just gets you visibility into what you actually want to do by having genuine conversations with people that are already in industries you're interested in.
Yeah, so similar to Jensen, I also found this job through networking. And networking, to be very, put it as in basic terms, it's just a conversation. You are always consistently networking. So for me, I found TTI through one of my old college field hockey teammates, where I kind of was just telling her where I had been working at a financial firm for a little bit. And I was like, hey, I'm not sure that this is the route I want to keep going. I was like, I don't know. She was like, hey, I interned at this company. You should do it. Worst case scenario, go through the interview process, and you don't like it, say no. I was like, okay, yeah, that could be cool. Went through the interview process, got the job, did 2 roles. I'm on my 4th role now within the company. But it literally just started from me mentioning to her that I was kind of unhappy, was looking for a change, and her kind of just sparking, hey, I know this really good place. So from the very basic level, networking is just a conversation.
Yeah.
So step 1, why do we want to network? I could read all the steps too, but honestly, just read it. So why do you want to network? Like I mentioned, because honestly, it's you never know who you're going to run into at what point in your life you're going to need them or not need them, or how you can be an assistance. So for us right now, especially as college students, you might be looking for a new job. Later down the road, you might be looking to change careers, change roles within the organization. You just never know who you're going to be talking to and maybe what they're doing, if it aspires something that you kind of want to be doing, or if it's something that maybe, hey, later down the road, you're talking to someone, you're back in your own shoes. So for us, when we go back to Davis, we're talking to students who we were in their shoes, how we can be assistants to them. So at the end of the day, it's you just always want to be networking, consistently talking to people, and just having an open mindset and just getting to know everyone that you come in contact with.
Yep. I would add to a good reason to network. Have any of you heard, when it comes to networking, the rule of 6? So the idea is that you're always within 6 people of everyone in the world. So, your friend might know someone who works in the White House who might know Joe Biden. Then in that instance, it would be 3 people. But the saying goes that you are always 6 people away from knowing every single person in the world. And so taking advantage of that fact is one of the main reasons for networking. And you can theoretically, through networking, access anyone through having the right relationships and through reaching out to the right people. So as far as the why, you can theoretically network with anyone in the world, just using that knowledge. So for a little bit more about a practicality when it comes to networking, there are different types of people in your life that you would network with differently. You might have your friends and colleagues here at UNR or your family back home. You might have people who you're meeting in your classes that you don't know very well, or meeting at clubs who might be more in that acquaintance category. And there might be people you don't know at all who are your 2nd or 3rd connections on LinkedIn. And with that, you kind of can take a personal inventory of the people you know, and you can reach out to them in different ways. So when we're talking about people who fall under the category of hot outreach, these would be people that you can have more direct conversations with and be a little bit more genuine in your job search. And you can talk, in my case, I found my job through hot outreach. I had a genuine conversation with someone I met and I knew very well. And I talked to them hey, what's your job like? What's the day-to-day like? How do you like it? Do you like the people you're working with? And have conversations like that. And then when it comes to somewhere in the middle, when you have mutual interests, it could be people like us, coming to this presentation. We are here because we are constantly looking through resumes. We're constantly looking for people to hire. And so you're here to gain a little bit more information about networking and how you could possibly land a job as well. So when it comes to mutual interests, these are things that would be a little bit more formal, but you can still ask some higher level questions about the industries or fields that you're looking to go into. And so we would be an example of that, or people you meet at career fairs, other employers, individuals you meet at conferences, or people you might not know as well in the classroom. And then when it comes to cold outreach, these are people where you wouldn't necessarily be super forward or genuine with in terms of how you approach them. Like if you were just reaching out to an employer on LinkedIn, it would be a very formal method of communication. And so that would fall under these categories. So if someone messaged me on LinkedIn and was trying to be all buddy, I might not look at that positively. I would probably prefer a more formal method of communication if they're looking to be hired by me, for example.
With that being said, there's no right or wrong way when it comes to this process, like Jensen mentioned. So similar to getting this job, it was a friend, like a really good friend of mine. However, right now we're in the process. For us specifically, you kind of each hold like a different place within these kind of categories. So for us, like if we're introducing like ourselves to our friend, like we're actively hiring people, those might be like a little bit more of like a hotter outreach versus right now we're here kind of presenting, talking to you guys where we would be considered a mutual interest versus like, let's just say we never met, we never came here. Jensen and I are still actively recruiting on LinkedIn, sending people messages, which is like more of a formal type of message. So it doesn't really matter which kind of way you get in. The important piece of it is that you're doing it, you're practicing, you're constantly getting better and like kind of figuring out how to like brand yourself personally in like the best way possible. So this is something that is very near and dear to my heart. I practice this a lot, but essentially, is anyone familiar with an elevator pitch? Do you guys know what it is? Have you ever done it? Someone kind of want to raise their hand and give me like your idea of what this kind of means.
I like an overview of like what your skills are, but like within very short. Kind of like an introduction of yours.
Yeah, exactly. So an elevator pitch is kind of essentially what it is. Like, hey, if I was stuck in an elevator with Jensen, like we're pressing 3rd floor and we're like have from 0 to 3 to figure out like who he is, like what is coming out of my mouth to give him a really good representation as to who I am, what my goals are, what I'm looking for, as well as kind of like building the network essentially. So the only way to get better at doing an elevator pitch, to be very honest with you guys, is to practice it. I know it sounds kind of like it's a little awkward, but for me in college, and I know Jensen and I practice this a lot with each other, is especially when we go to career fairs, and I know you guys have the career fair next week coming up, is definitely worth sitting down with a friend, a mentor, a colleague, a teacher, just anyone really, and just kind of going through like, hey, let me practice talking to you within like this 30 to 60 second time frame, because when you're at a career fair, realistically, that's kind of all you're going to get with an employer. You want to make sure that you are introducing yourself, kind of highlighting, putting your best foot forward and really representing your personal brand, as well as like putting out the energy, kind of just really getting to let this person know who you are to kind of spark that interest. That way, when we're at the career fairs, we're meeting a lot of people. We want to remember like the people that are putting their best foot forward when we're talking to them and kind of being like, hey, like this person stood out to us. Like, let me go back and look at their resume and try and schedule an interview.
For me, the position I held prior to this management position was in sales. And one of the things they taught me in sales training was about 70 to 80% of actually making a sale comes from the pre-work or from doing your homework. And so to just kind of tag on to what she said, you can't really just wing an elevator pitch at the career fair, in my opinion. We can kind of tell when that happens. And so I think it is really important just to hammer it home to do your homework, practice this with someone you know, and come up with some great experience and skills that you have. And you can even tailor that to the specific employer that you're talking to, depending on what positions you're interested in applying for. Being able to tailor your elevator pitch to them could be useful as well. So practicing multiple different kinds of pitches could work as well. And the career fair, people at the career fair will have their own elevator pitch that they're going to give to you as well about their company. And so being able to respond to that in a way that's adaptive and to tailor yours to what they're saying is something that's important as well.
And so for us, like when someone comes up to us to talk to us talk to us at the career fair, we're typically going to tell them a little bit about us, a little bit about our company, and what we're looking for in a candidate. So that at that point, it's kind of based on kind of what we're saying, like have your pitch, your elevator, you're ready to sell yourself based on like kind of what we're looking for. So essentially what I like to think of when I'm giving my personal elevator pitch is think of my why. Why do I want this role? Why am I doing the things that I do? Why am I looking and why am I talking specifically to this company? Is kind of what I would tailor my pitch to.
So there is a whole host of questions that you can ask during your networking time with other people, with companies. This is an example of some of the questions that you can ask. If you want, you can take a picture of this, but what do you guys think off the top of your head? What would you ask to an employer, or what would, I mean, the career fair is next week. So do you guys have anything in mind? Like, what do you want to know more from an employer when you're meeting them?
What kind of working environment that
Mhm.
they have?
Like the culture and stuff like
Yeah.
that? Yeah, I think that's definitely a good question to ask. Our culture, for example, is outwardly aggressive, but like really inwardly supportive. We are selling power tools. We're a power tool conglomerate, and so we're managing the operations, the sales. We're doing the management ourselves, and then we're doing the marketing for that as well. And so, you know, when it comes to power tools, I feel like when I think of tools, I think of aggression. And so the culture is kind of based off of the company. And so every company is going to have a vastly different culture. And depending on who you are as a person, that might change what employer you want to work for. So I think culture is a really good one. Anyone else have anything?
Like Jensen mentioned, this is just like a couple examples of some questions, but really networking, it's just a conversation. It's getting to know people, getting to know what their goals are, your goals are, where do we align? Is this a good step? Is this a good next step? Is this maybe, hey, something, this is what I thought I wanted to do, and after trying to talking to you, you're like, I'm gonna take a step back, this isn't what I want to do. So it's definitely a good way of just really just meeting people, trying to figure it out, because you know, maybe later down the road, like, hey, you decided after talking to this person, this is not what I want to do. But you know, you're talking to your best friend, your roommate, whatever, and she's like, I want to do this, or he's like, I don't know what to do. And you're like, I just talked to this person. Like, I think it would be a great fit for you guys to connect. That's kind of where it just kind of all sparks. You know, you never know who you're going to know.
So something like we've been mentioning this whole time, practice definitely makes perfect in the case of networking. So if you're not already registered or attending the career fair next week, I would definitely recommend it. TTI will be there, and so if you want to come up and have a conversation with us, you totally can. Setting up informational interviews, I'm spending probably 10 to 12 hours of my week right now, in addition to managing my territory, just setting up informational interviews with people. And so if you go on LinkedIn, or if anyone reaches out to you, you can, and you're not particularly interested in the position, you can still just look at it sort of as practice, honestly. It's always useful to just continually practice when it comes to networking, and taking advantage of any, like, 15-minute phone conversations, anyone in person that you might think you would be interested in working for their organization. And then even peer-to-peer, it's important to have those conversations about, what are your goals in terms of organizations in the future? Because if you align yourself right now with people, then you could be in a position like myself, where I ended up aligning myself with someone who had a similar vision, and she helped me get the job that I have now.
The best piece that sorry, my team's done right now. The best piece of advice that I could kind of give you guys when you're going to network is just step out of your comfort zone. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And, like you mentioned, maybe this is, you're going to try and talk to someone that is going to align with your career for. Hey, maybe you're going to like take a step back and tell anyone, but like maybe go to someone that you're not interested to. Just practice your elevator pitch, so that way by the time when you're getting to the people that you are trying to talk to, you practiced it, you got it down, you can do it in your sleep. If someone's like, hey, give me your elevator pitch right now, like, you'd be able to do it. The best way to network is to just get uncomfortable and just talk to people. At the end of the day, whether you're extroverted, introverted, it does not matter. The only way you're going to get better at it is by being uncomfortable and just talking to people that you wouldn't A, normally even think about talking to, or B, just, like getting out there and approaching them. So a little bit kind of advice, and you guys are in the right stuff, kind of signing up for these presentations, getting to know people. We'll leave you with our cards at the end. If you guys want to talk to us further or practice your elevator pitch, you're more than welcome to.
Something that's always nice for me and that kind of shows the care of a candidate is continuing to follow up when it comes to networking. Things like thanking or I personally thank every candidate that I interview as well. So it definitely goes both ways. But it does show that you're putting in a little bit more care in terms of your job search if you are keeping up that flow of conversation. Something that Techtronic Industries does as a policy when it comes to our candidate outreach is we're constantly keeping candidates in the loop who are in the interview process or have an offer out for a date in the future, is that we are hosting events for them to go to virtually or sometimes even in person. We are constantly in communication with them, like, hey, like, how's it going? How's your semester going? And it's always great if that communication goes both ways. It definitely does not hurt to over communicate with people that you are networking with, and it can only serve to benefit you.
Like just I mentioned, like we were both kind of referral. I for sure was a referral. Your situation kind of a referral. Yeah. So we were both referrals, and that just kind of is what networking is. So essentially, like our company TTI, you know, a lot of the people that we do hire, like we keep in touch, like Jensen mentioned, let's say we hired them like back in December for June. Like, so we have all that time where you're not really working for us, but you are a part of, we consider you a part of our organization during that time, like continuing to reach out, continuing to get to know people. And that's kind of eventually how like we both got the job. We were talking to our friends who already had jobs. So it really is just kind of building your web and figuring out like, hey, what did I want to do? Where do I want to go? Like, how can I get there? And trying to find the best people to, you know, get you there. Because at the end of the day, like no one's going to look out for you better than you. So got to keep that in mind.
I think it's a good opportunity to ask some practical questions as well, because networking looks different in a lot of different situations. It really is supposed to be conversational. And so like, while we are talking about this in a really formal manner, and there are questions up here that you can use, you definitely want to keep it conversational. So do you guys have any questions about networking, any experiences that you have or foresee having at the career fair? Really anything when it comes to networking. Do you guys have any questions?
Or you want to run your elevator pitch by us? Welcome to, or questions about us, TTI, what we do. We can practice networking and stuff.
Any questions from the mentors that you're dying to ask?
You guys' majors and years in school?
I'm a senior, agricultural science and
Nice.
senior international.
Nice.
Do you guys have any idea what you guys want to do post graduation, or are you guys kind of just like still figuring it out?
5 years. Back. But I'm really figuring out. I want to get back in production management. I was actually a trainer for production lines for Nevada and Texas.
Big area.
Yeah.
Nice. So TTI is hiring for positions in sales management, operations, and marketing. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna ask if there's any like mental routines that you guys go through before like heading up to somebody at a networking event or even at a career fair, because I know it can be pretty daunting. So is there any like specific thoughts that might run through your head or any checks that you might do just like mentally to make sure that you're prepared?
Can you elaborate on what you mean by a mentor routine?
Like mental routine.
Oh,
So,
mental
like,
routine. I thought you said
any
mental.
thoughts running through your head that's like, because I know it's
You're saying from like the career perspective or from the recruiter's perspective or from the
probably from the like applicant's or candidate's perspective.
Yeah, I think it can definitely be daunting for sure. I 100% agree. I think I always have kept it as conversational as I can. It is really interesting mixing kind of a formal environment with just trying to have a genuine conversation about the job. But when we go to career fairs, well, I guess I can speak for myself. When I go to a career fair, I'm looking to just have a genuine conversation with an applicant. And I want to see it. It's not you have to prove anything to me. It's like, is this a good fit for both of us? On our side, we are just trying to see if we're at the same place where we can meet together and we can start doing business with one another by, us paying for your services as an employee, right? And I think I would be surprised if most recruiters don't think that way. It's really just conversational and kind of just seeing if you're a good fit.
I think for me, like in preparing, not so much now doing the recruiting aspect of it, but like when I was in your guys' shoes and like I was going to go be like introducing myself to people, for me, it was important, like, hey, what are maybe the top 3 things that I want to get across? So for me, it was like name, year of graduation, major, and then I guess 4 things. And like, for me, the biggest thing is that I was a student athlete at school. So those were the 4 things I wanted to come across, that I wanted to kind of make sure that that was in my pitch. And then kind of like Jensen mentioned, now kind of see, like, let's get conversational based. Usually a typical conversation, and I've now seen this both on like from our perspective as well as like from the flip side on the other perspective. Conversation will be like, hi, what's your name? Like, hi, I'm so-and-so, graduate this year, this major. I'm on the student, like I'm on the field hockey team. Like I'm really interested in TTI because of like this. And then they'll come be like, oh, that's cool. Like, what do you know? Like I'm Tatiana, like I'm a territory manager. It's very like conversational based, but for me, what really helped me is like trying to figure out what are the top things that are most important that I want to get across to whoever it is that I'm talking to. Because like Jensen said, at the end of the day, is mostly trying to see like, are we a good fit? Because, you know, we'll look at the resumes and we'll look at the applications like a little bit later. But at the end of the day, like if we can't have just like a genuine conversation, because like he has a team of like, what, 11, 10, I have a team of 11 right now. So we want to make sure that like we're meshing on like a level that like, yeah, past now we're able to get into the business and like what we need to do, like from an employee, like manager rep standpoint. But like first it's like, hey, can we just even talk about conversation, see if we can even get there? That makes sense.
Be honest.
I know, I'm trying to think.
Because we want to make sure our students, it's a great question because we want to make sure
Yeah.
you all are prepared, especially if you are going to be, graduating and looking, for the next, job opportunity. We want you to make sure to not screw it up.
I'm trying to think of examples I've had in the past of things that well, I think that there's 2 different things I've had. I've had people who didn't approach with a ton of confidence, honestly, and it's more me leading them in the conversation. And like I said, I really enjoy it just being like conversational, and that kind of tells me how you're going to fit on my team. And the opposite side of that, I've had people come in with a lot of overconfidence, dominating the conversation, like talking over me or interrupting me. And I would say that there's a good balance. And like I said, it's just being like a regular conversation, or just having a regular conversation, not treating it like I have to oversell myself. Or yeah.
You have to think about also from our perspective, like when we're like, we know the next role that you are essentially introducing yourself for us. So if you're coming on, so we work in sales. So if you're underconfident, we're thinking, hey, we're going to put this person in a retail environment. We're going to put these people to go sell to like general contractors. Like they're not going to make it. Or vice versa, the opposite. You come on too strong. We're like, like you're supposed to be customer service. Like, I don't know how that's going to like play out. So I think that's a really good example. And I think also just like, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but personal branding, like what do you want to come across? So, that's probably like, I hate to say it, but like, don't take this in the way that like I'm saying it, my poor choice of words, but looks matter in the sense of how you present yourself. So like dress up to like a professional, like whether that is maybe some dark jeans and like a blazer, or like, you could go in a tuxedo if you wanted to, but like, I would probably avoid like going in the flip flops, like your sweats, like just kind of how you present yourself is going to be the best thing, because just automatically it's like, how much are we going to invest in you versus like, this is our first impression of you and you didn't really invest that much in us. That makes sense. Like I don't know if he'll be at the career fair. I don't think so, but tonight, I for sure will be here. If you guys, even if you aren't interested in us, if you want to come up to me and run your elevator pitch by me, or like, hey, how do I look? Like, how can I make like these things stand out? Feel free to come up to me and I'll help you for whoever it is that you do want to go talk to. And I can just kind of give you some tips, or I can give you my card. You can call or email, whatever you want me to look over your resume. We can totally do that. I think just ultimately it's how you're going to represent yourself. And that's the first impression. The resume we'll get to and we'll look at it. But the first piece is like, is this person like a good fit for our teams?
Good question.
Yeah, that was a good question.
For the student who doesn't have much experience, how can I approach? What should I talk about?
it just kind of depends. So you don't necessarily have to have work experience because I'm sure you're probably doing more than just going to school. So, you know, talk about the things that you are doing. Talk about your leadership opportunities, even if it's something as small as like you're working on a group project and you're taking the lead. You're like the one that's, you know, going like scheduling the time to meet, doing all the like the operational stuff. You know, like talk about those kinds of experience. Like, hey, I really enjoy like being like a manager. I really enjoyed on this group project. Like I really enjoy taking charge. I enjoyed scheduling the meetings. Talk about like your experiences. Like doesn't have to be work, just maybe your leadership experiences or personal experiences. You know, if you, some people like at Davis were our trained or exchange students. They were like, hey, like this was my experience, like coming to this school. Like I learned X, Y, and Z. Like this is like what I can bring to the table. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah. I'm Tatiana Jensen. I'll be at the career fair. He may or may not. But feel free to reach out. Like we market, sell, manage power tools, operations. I'm not super anyone's interested in that, but if you are, or if you know someone that is, feel free to reach out. You know, the major for us does not matter. We're really just looking for, you know, self-motivated people, hard workers, people that are willing to learn, step out their comfort zone and just kind of work hard. So
Thank you guys.
You.